do have some fundamentalist fuckwittery, and the fundamentalist fuckwittery this week is brought to you by slavery apologist Joshua Haymes. Now, the reason why this is important is because Haymes is one of the pastors at Pete Hegseth's church in Tennessee. And so he's connected to the community of Reformed evangelical churches, which is headed by Doug Wilson, himself a slavery apologist. He wrote a pamphlet called Slavery as It Was and said that the enslaved African descended peoples, he didn't use that term, had a mutually beneficial relationship with their enslavers.
Sure we
which,
did.
Motherfucker, no. But here is Josh Haymes, and he smokes a pipe because I think he thinks it makes him look professorial, but he's just one of those people who he's a clown. And I'm going to show you a video. It's about 3 minutes long. I watched a much longer version of it today and listened to him elucidate his logically inconsistent and fallacious argument, which I will try to break down as quickly as possible. But here's the video. And y'all, I apologize for what you're about to hear, but it's important because of who he's connected to and how that movement of the CREC churches under Doug Wilson is spreading like cancer in the United States.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said, okay? Every Christian should be able to defend it. Big evangelicalism has been getting this wrong for years, basically since the advent of Big Eva. They haven't had a good answer for the slavery issue. All right, Christians in America have been led astray on this topic. They've been led to believe things that the Bible doesn't teach. And when we go beyond the Bible, there are dire consequences. We must also acknowledge that men like our founders, men like Jonathan Edwards, who owned slaves, could in fact treat their slaves the way the Bible tells them to treat their slaves, and that they weren't living in grave sin, okay? They weren't living in unrepentant grave sin. They weren't orcs, in other words, right? And that's very, very important because if we look back at our forefathers who engaged in a system that was ubiquitous all across the entire world, and we condemn them, right? C.S. Lewis calls that chronological snobbery, okay? We're condemning them for being a product of their time, all right? But especially given the fact that the Bible does not explicitly condemn that as sinful, then we ought not explicitly condemn our forefathers, condemn Jonathan Edwards as grave, unrepentant sinners. That is chronological snobbery at its finest, and if you engage in that, you know, Jesus says, whatever measure you use will be measured to judge you, okay? And what will your great-great-grandkids have against you, right? And it's going to be something. Maybe it's the fact that how little you did to stop the mass murdering of little babies in our time once, you know, abortion is finally abolished, right? I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. So you need to watch out for the chronological snobbery, all right? Watch out for it. Do not condemn our forefathers who may have been treating their slaves biblically, and in fact, it was such like 2% of the Americas, right, actually owned slaves. And anyone who actually engaged in real abuse, yeah, we condemn that, okay? And what will your great-great-grandkids have against you, right? And it's going to be something. Maybe it's the fact that how little you did to stop the mass murdering of little babies in our time once, you know, abortion is finally abolished, right? I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. So you need to watch out for the chronological snobbery, all right? Watch out for it. Do not condemn our forefathers who may have been treating their slaves biblically, and in fact, it was such like 2% of the Americas, right, actually owned slaves. And anyone who actually engaged in real abuse, yeah, we condemn that. We condemn treating other image bearers as subhuman. That's evil. That's bad. That's not good. We can condemn that, okay? but we cannot condemn the entire institution of slavery like outright. We just cannot do that because the Bible does not do that.